Before we confirmed. I don't. Director, uh, or do you have any other things that you'd like to put about? That's supposed to be my event, sorry. That's one. Thank you. Right. Um, I think it's positive.
that it's not something that is of a degree that we would be spending additional money. In council where we don't have a whole lot of excess money sitting around. So that's, I guess, on the fence front and signage. I also totally support the recommendation that, and in response to the petitioners, that a more streamlined, less cluttered approach. Again, for similar reasons. One's clarity of communication and the other is sensitivity to the environment. I do, I think it's worth, as a council, pausing and thinking about, are there lessons to be learned from this project? In my experience, probably all projects in life, there are lessons to be learned, and perhaps in relation to the fence and also the signage, there are some things that we could reflect on and possibly do a little bit differently next time.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors like to speak to this? Councillor Walker.
Thank you. Just to endorse the comments that we understand that it might not be the prettiest, but it is a safety issue. And that we did have lengthy discussions, and to note that one of the discussions was around about if we coloured it. The conclusion was that might dim the appearance in daytime, but as soon as it starts getting dark, it becomes invisible, and that in itself then becomes a safety issue, which is why there's no choice. And it is a short distance of fence along the whole track. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. And that, Councillor Driscoll, would you like to exercise a right of reply?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of things. The shared signage is a legal requirement. We don't have much option there. And just want to note that any signage rationalisation that will be done will be in consultation with the impacted residents. And the other thing the petition mentioned was education. Council has involved Jarry in the development of the trail signage. There's also been the development of a sound walk, which enables visitors to use a QR code and hear stories about the natural environment as they walk through, which I've used elsewhere, and I think it's a really nice addition. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Driscoll. So we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? The motion's carried. And I'll just add to that, I completely agree with you, Councillor Driscoll, but opportunity for some QR code linked audio material is really apparent there, with so many topics that could be canvassed, and I'm glad you raised that. It's an important consideration in that trail. we'll move on to 9.2 environment. We have no reports of the environment. So 9.3 economy. Planning application PA 204-2023. Do I have a motion? Councillor Maddock, would you introduce it, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is the planning permit application PA 204-2023, 24 Galton Street, Castlemaine. The purpose of this report is to enable council to make a decision on an application for the partial demolition of dwelling additions, 24 Galton Street, Castlemaine. The application has been referred to council for a decision as the council offers some recommendations to refuse the application. The subject site is within a general residential zone, Schedule 1, and affected by floodway overlay, heritage overlay, which is the Camp Preserve environment overlay, land subject to inundation overlay, and significant landscape overlay. The proposed buildings and works are located outside the areas affected by the abbreviations. So it's the floodway overlay, the land inundation overlay, and the landscape overlay. The application therefore was not assessed against these overlay provisions. The application was assessed against the relevant provisions of the Mount Alexander Planning Scheme and found not to meet the requirements of the heritage overlay. It is a recommendation that the application not be supported and that a notion of decision to refuse a planning permit is issued in accordance with the following recommendation. So, Chair, I'd like to move that council issue a notice of a decision to refuse planning permit PA 204-2023 for the partial demolition and dwelling additions of 24 Galton Street, Castlemaine, on the following grounds. One, the proposal will adversely affect the significance, character and appearance of the individually significant heritage place, in brackets H0610, close brackets, and the broader heritage precinct, over brackets H0668, close brackets, by failing to appropriately account for and respond to the existing heritage fabric. Two, the proposed demolition fails to adequately protect elements of heritage significance by removing potentially contributory fabric, in brackets, detached brick laundry, close brackets, without adequate assessment and justification. In contrast to heritage policies in clause 15.03-1S, heritage conservation, clause 15.3-1L, heritage general, and the heritage overlay, clause 43.1. Three, the proposed new development fails to provide a satisfactory response to the heritage policy in clause 15.03-1L, heritage general, that encourages new development to be distinguishable from and respectful to the original heritage fabric. The proposed addition does not sufficiently distinguish new work from the original heritage building in terms of form, materials, and roofline, as there is a lack of clear transitional element. For example, a recessed or glazed link, and bare brickwork matching the heritage building is proposed to be used. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Maddock. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Haswell. Councillor Maddock, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, thank you. I'll just speak to the bits that really sort of jump out at me, and I might actually just read a section from the report, I think. Which is the council contests the demolition of the existing laundry in the absence of an independent heritage assessment and the proposed works. Council officers sought the applicant to obtain a heritage impact assessment to determine the significance of the laundry and justify its removal. However, the applicant refused this request. In the absence of this information, council is unable to fully ascertain the heritage significance of the laundry and how it fits into the history and heritage significance of the property. And as a councillor, that's from the officers' reports, which I really respect. As a councillor with even less experience and expertise in this area, we really rely on those heritage impact reports. So I have no confidence in making a decision right or wrong how to remove something like this. So on that grounds alone, I can't see a way that I can support this. And then just lastly, which is speaking to point 3, which is does not significantly distinguish the new work from the old heritage building. I understand that to be quite an orthodoxy of how to work in these heritage environments. If you're adding something new, you make it look different. It's not about mimicking what's in the past. It's sort of important to distinguish, or you end up sort of detracting from or potentially eroding the heritage value. So I think that was a good pickup and a concern that I definitely support as well. So for those reasons, I can't support this, and I would implore my council colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Hassel, would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
Speak now,
Thank
please.
you.
Similarly to councillor Maddock, 24 Galton Street has been identified as having individual heritage significance. And I thank the officers for the report and the detail to which they've gone to explain that individual significance, in addition to being part of the broader heritage precinct of camp, reserve and environment. So that combination clearly makes this a very important consideration. We know that heritage is highly valued by many in our community, and that we as councillors have a responsibility to protect and to promote heritage. Without the further work that's been requested by officers in relation to the potentially contributory fabric of the brick laundry, I do not believe we can make an adequate assessment and therefore have no option but to refuse the planning permit. I do appreciate that the officers have gone, I think, above and beyond with their focused research and in providing the applicant with the opportunity on a number of occasions to respond with the information that would have potentially made it possible for us to consider another outcome.
Thank you, councillor Haswell. Councillors, would someone else like to speak to this? Are there any objections? Councillor Courtney?
I don't wish to speak to it, but I have concerns.
Okay, councillor Maddock, would you like to exercise your right of reply now?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We live in a township in Shire that's rich in heritage value, and that well, those of us who moved here did so knowing full well, and for a lot of us, that's part of the reason why we moved here. It's true. We need to build houses. We need to keep on living and progressing as a community and as a township, but it needs to be in respect to heritage. I think this is a good option, and hopefully, if the applicant wishes to proceed, they can seek the heritage reports, and we can revisit this. I just wish to point out one sort of quirk of this process, which is kind of news to me. There's lots of things that are news to me, being new in the job, which is that because the officer's recommendation was to refuse, it's come to us without being advertised, which is a little bit concerning for me, because if we had decided in a different outcome here to go against some recommendation, which we do sometimes, it would have progressed without the opportunity for residents to formally object at this stage, which I'm sure there would have been, given the interest and the value of this camp reserve site. So I'm not saying anything was untoward. I'm sure it's usual practice, but and objectors would still have a chance to object through BCAP if that was the case. But it was just a bit of it was a bit concerning for me to recognise that was a possibility. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, councillor Maddock. Well, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion and against, and that's carried. And I'll just add to that, endorsing the comments of my fellow councillors, but just to add that really one of the sticky points here is about the laundry. We don't know if that laundry is a building associated with the Star Brewery site. would be very interesting to have those, as Councillor Madden explained, we're very good to have those, that heritage report completed so that we can, it'd be very interesting to know if there was some surviving fabric from that, very well known back in the day, institution on Bolton Street, the Star Brewery, so one of many breweries, in Castlemaine. I'd also like to commend the officers for their thoroughness in compiling this very comprehensive report. Okay, so we're on to 9.3.2. Municipal Association of Victoria State Council nomination of substitute representative. Do I have a motion, Councillor Walker?
Yes, I move a motion.
Yeah, do you want to read that? Yeah, thank you. Introduce it, please.
So the purpose of this report is to request council to nominate a substitute representative to attend the Municipal Association Victoria State Council meeting on the 10th of October 2025. The recommendation, the motion is that Council 1 nominates Mayor Rosie Adair to be the substitute representative to attend the MAB State Conference meeting on the 10th of October 2025, and 2 authorises the Chief Executive Officer to sign and date the MAB nomination of substitute delegate form, confirming the name and attendance of a substitute representative to the MAB State Council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Cordy. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Walker?
Yes. The Municipal Association of Victoria's membership association and the legislative peak body for local government in Victoria. MAV provides its council members several services, including specialist policy and advocacy to the state and federal governments, governance and legislative advice, sector development, insurance and procurement services. Mount Alexander Shire Council is a member of the MAV. The MAV facilitates 2 state council meetings per year. The State Council is the governing body of the MAV, and it comprises delegates from each member council, and its powers include determining the rules of association, electing the president and board directors, and determining the MAV's strategic direction. Council members also have the opportunity to submit motions to the State Council to address an issue of statewide importance or strategic relevance across the local government sector in Victoria, and I note that our council will be submitting a resolution. If a motion is carried, the MAV then advocates on its importance to the state and federal governments. At its meeting of this council on the 17th of December 2024, we appointed Councillor Tony Cordy as the MAV representative and Councillor Matthew Driscoll as the substitute. Both have advised that they are unavailable to attend the MAV State Conference on the 10th of October 2025. As such, Council is required to nominate an alternative substitute representative, which will enable them to vote on any motions put before State Council. I'd submit that the Mayor, Rosie Adair, is an excellent substitute representative, and I trust this is just a procedural issue.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Cordy, would you like to speak to?
I think Councillor Walker covered it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else like to speak to this? Yes, Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, everybody. I just want to thank the Mayor for stepping up. Councillor Corley, as Councillor Walker said, was our representative. I was on the bench, but both of us can't get up, unfortunately, at this time. So I want to thank the Mayor for doing that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Walker, would you like to add anything in light of the plan?
I think it's all covered, Chairperson.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. And we wish the Mayor well in representing us at MAV. So moving on to 9.3.3, another MAV related motion regarding housing. We'll have a motion, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Hastwell. Would you like to introduce them?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, so the purpose of this report, as you have flagged, is also in relation to the MAB October State Council meeting. So the recommendation is that council submits a motion regarding the need to advocate for further change to policy and funding arrangements in the state and federal governments to better support housing. While proposing that changes occur to benefit all communities living in remote, rural, regional and metropolitan areas, the report withdraws on experience gained during the past 4 years in attempting to deliver more housing in Mount Alexander Shire. And I'd like to move that council submits the following motion for consideration at the MAV State Council meeting on the 10th of October 2025. That the Municipal Association of Victoria advocates to the state and federal governments for 1, the development of housing-related policy frameworks and associated funding streams that are unique to each of the 4 settings of remote, rural, regional and metropolitan Victoria and Australia. Such frameworks and funding streams must A, integrate policy responses across domains, including housing, agriculture, mining, tourism, health, education and economic development, and B, individually address the planning, development and delivery contexts of housing in remote, rural, regional and metropolitan areas of Victoria and Australia, with particular emphasis on the different needs, dynamics and challenges that exist in each of these areas. And 2, the creation of mechanisms within Treasury and Housing Australia, Federal, and Department of Transport and Planning and Homes Victoria State to facilitate simpler and more equitable access to funding and finance for appropriate and affordable housing development. Such mechanisms must include A, support and resources to assist councils to apply for funding through Housing Australia and Homes Victoria, and B, the creation of housing fund models that enable the aggregation of housing proposals across multiple council areas and joint consideration for funding. And 3, policy, legislative and funding support for innovative models of affordable and appropriate housing delivery, such as trusts, co-housing and community land models.
Thank you, councillor. Seconder. Thank you, councillor Maddox. Councillor Hassel, would you like to speak further to the motion?
Happy to reserve my word.
Councillor Maddox, would you like to? You can't reserve your right to the mover to the seconder.
Thank
But you will have a
All
right
right.
to reply.
Okay, I won't reserve my right. Okay. So, look, I'm sure that other councillors will also want to speak to this, so I won't attempt to cover every aspect. I also do want to again point out that this is an outstanding report. There's a lot of information here, very compelling outline of the case. It's a critical issue which this council has demonstrated real commitment to, an excellent understanding and a strategic approach, I believe, and supported very much by our specialist officer, Housing Solutions broker, and also with strong support from our CEO, and very significantly passionate and I think very well informed commitment of councillors. As we know, housing is not an area that every local government takes up and invests in significantly, but it has to be in the current context a significant part of the solution. I think we're all proud to be part of a shire where both the previous and current council takes this seriously and is also demonstrating great leadership with efforts to work collaboratively with other councils. Appropriately framed state and federal policy and funding approaches, which include an understanding of the different needs of metro, regional and rural shires, are vital to make real progress in this area. And once again, I commend the work of officers in the development of the position to take forward to the MAV meeting.
Thank you, councillor Hastrell. Councillor Maddox, would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
I'll speak now. Thank you,
Right.
Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hassel. And thank you, executive team, particularly the housing broker, Claire, Richard, and our CEO for getting this report together. Look, I think and the report really does illustrate just how much work we've done in this area that really is genuinely exciting and thorough and ambitious work as well. And I guess something that's becoming apparent to me and I'm sure it's no secret that we have some fantastic shovel-ready projects in the Shire. Which are not attracting funding at the moment. We hope that will soon, but not at the moment. And what may underpin that is the challenges of delivering these projects in a rural setting. The builds here are more expensive, and we lack the economy of scale that even our regional city colleagues up in Bendigo and similar have a greater advantage of. It costs more to build houses in regional communities, but those houses are often more important, especially when they're not being built because they're too expensive. So the value for us to secure even a small number of these apartments is great, mainly because we're displacing such large parts of our population at such a fast rate, which it happens to some extent in the cities and in the regional the regional cities, but it's a very dramatic effect in towns like ours where families are split up. People who've grown up here their whole lives need to move out, and importantly, our essential workforce is displaced as well. So this is really affecting everyone, including the people who aren't displaced, because we're losing our workforce. So, and it's picked up in the report, which says government policy continues to lack discernment between these different types of areas that we live in. So this, in its essence, is really pushing for more discernment and underlining just the more equitable access to funding as well. So the equitable areas, how important is it to our community? What values does that present? And also not getting really any access to this affordable housing. What does that mean for our community events? It's particularly valuable to build in a rural setting. I'll put a rural lens on this. There's remote is a whole other thing as well. I won't speak to that, but this motion is calling for discernment across all those things. And it's also calling for support for innovative models, which is really important because business as normal is not delivering the houses we need necessarily. We need to be creative, and there's a number of options available to us, and legislation should be facilitating them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Maddock. Do we have any objections to the motion? Or would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Yeah, Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. This is another way that our council is punching above our weight. Even though I firmly believe that the housing situation should be done by the state and federal government, and local government, we shouldn't actually be doing this type of thing, but we have to because it's a major issue and we're stepping up to the plate. So it's disappointing that we have to do this, but it is what it is, and we're doing the best we can. And we've done numerous things, and this is just another way that what we have done to help the community as best as we can. Thanks, Mayor. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor, and thanks for the promotion. Councillor Walker, would you like to?
Simply endorsing the comments of the others. We know that housing is a crucial issue currently, and I hope this is not the only housing motion that goes forward to MAV. Thank you. By that I mean not just by us, I hope other councils are also taking it up.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Haswell, if no one else wants to, would you like your reply?
I think we've covered the area pretty well, but I also would highly recommend to people who are interested in this matter to access and read the report. There's a lot of fantastic information, background, context, rationale in there. So once again, kudos to the former, the previous council, who took a strong position on this and the work that's been undertaken to date. And, this is a critical move in terms of opening up that access to funding so that we can actually start to action things. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Haskell. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? Against? And it's carried unanimously. As fellow councillors have known, this is a really well-written report. I'd like to thank the Housing Solutions Broker, Claire Richards, and our CEO, Darren Fuzzer, for seeing this through. So we read so much about housing solutions. It takes a very long time to get the bulk of these under process. It's a worthy motion. Points outlined by councillors Hastwell and Maddock are all very sound. Let's hope that we can see some more action in this space. And as councillor Driscoll points out, it is what it is, and sometimes we have to step up to that plate, as you rightly said, councillor. So moving on to 9.3.4. This is scheduled for instrument of delegation from council to the CEO. Do I have a motion? Thank you, councillor Cordy.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, this report seeks council's approval of delegations to the Chief Executive Officer, which must be approved by council on or before 26th October 2025 in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, the Act. And I'll read it out because it is an important document. So the recommendation in the exercise of the power conferred by Section 11(1)(b) of the Local Government Act 2020, the Act, Mount Alexander Shire Council, Canada, resolves that 1, there be delegated to the person holding the position or acting in or performing the duties of Chief Executive Officer, the powers, duties and functions set out in the attached instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer, subject to conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. 2, the instrument comes into force immediately upon this resolution being made and is to be signed by the Council's Chief Executive Officer and the Mayor. On the coming into force of the instrument, all previous delegations to the Chief Executive Officer are revoked. 4, the duties and functions set out in the instrument must be performed and the powers set out in the instrument must be executed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of council that it may from time to time adopt. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Cordy. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Walker. Councillor Cordy, would you like to speak further to this?
Just briefly, Deputy Mayor, it's self-explanatory. What we're dealing with here is the instrument of delegation, which sets out what the duties and powers of the Chief Executive Officer will do and not do in terms of under our authority or on our behalf. I commend this to all councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, would you like to speak now or reserve the right?
Just simply to say, look, superficially this appears like just another procedural motion, but in fact it's much more deeper and serious than that. As Councillor Cordy said, it's delegating authority to the Chief Executive Officer, and in supporting the resolution, I think it's an indication of the trust and good working relations between the council and CEO. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Walker. Would anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just a small point is that this gives the ability of the CEO to enter into contracts. It's moved up from 1 million to 1.3 million. The price of things is going up in the last few years. So that the council can run smoothly and it doesn't get bogged down, because if it was a lower amount, then it had to come back to us and which takes several months. And so it'd be really hard to run an organisation when you can't make those decisions. So this effectively makes council much more efficient. And I just also want to point out that the procurement team does come back to councillors on a monthly basis of all contracts that are awarded under the CEO's delegation. And councillors can require them to come to a meeting if they so wish. So it's not like the CEO can just go off willy-nilly spending. He can't do that. It's got to come back, it does come back to us on a monthly basis, and we can call that up if we so wish. I expect that, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone else like to speak to this? Okay, councillor Cordy, would you like to?
I just, it's an important document, and we've got a very good, very fine CEO in place and the executive team, and council working very well with the executive team. So this is just formalising that arrangement. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, councillor Cordy. We'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour and against, that's carried. And as councillors Cordy and Driscoll have outlined, this is about efficiency, and really these delegations can save us and the community time as well as money. As councillor Cordy says, we're lucky or blessed to have such a talented executive and instruments of delegation that can make this business of council run more smoothly are very important to us, as we always seek to act in the most efficient way. Now that 3.4 includes those reports. Let's move on to 10 delegates' reports. Perhaps councillor Walker, would you like to commence?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Two items. The first one on some community meetings I've attended, being meetings with Tudor Domain Society and Taradale Progress Association. Unfortunately, I did not get to the last meeting of Alberts and Progress Association, but I look forward to the next one. I also attended the annual general meetings of two community assets committees for Alphinston Recreational Hall and Metcalfe Hall. The second part of my report is something I'd like to read out. Concerns the United Firefighters Union and Emergency Services Volunteer Fund. The United Firefighters Union, UFU, as its name suggests, represents firefighters, including Country Fire Authority members who are professionally employed, with associate membership for volunteers. When the state government introduced the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund, the ESVF, part of the rationale was to increase funding to firefighting services and continue volunteer remuneration. The UFU saw the inequities in the ESVF, including how the funds were raised in its punitive on farmers, and the allocation in that it's broadened to cover 9 rather than 2 emergency services agencies and senior government bureaucrats rather than just frontline services. And in fact, the amounts going to frontline services are reducing. They also saw how the pressures that it was putting on local governments. As such, the UFU launched an alliance called Not in Our Name, including farmers and reaching out to councils. A series of Zoom meetings with councils occurred, coordinated by the UFU, culminating in a face-to-face meeting in Melbourne on the 26th of July. To date, over half of Victoria's 79 councils have engaged, and there is recognised need to reach out to metropolitan councils. Small rural councils are concerned that the SVF will bankrupt them, especially if residents boycott the payment, but the council is still required to transfer funds to state government. At the 26th of July meeting, a working group was formed comprised of 6 rural councillors, 5 regional councillors and 3 metropolitan councils, while allowing space to include more if required. On behalf of Mount Alexander Shire Council, I've attended all the meetings and I'm a member of the working group, and I chaired the initial meeting of the working group. The overarching call of our campaign is for a moratorium on the ESVF, while an independent public inquiry is held into the best mechanism to fund emergency services. Amongst councils and councillors, there are varying perspectives on the best mechanism to fund emergency services, but these views can unite behind the overarching campaign call and then present their own views to the independent public inquiry. The working group is organising several actions, including seeking a delegation to meet the Premier, Treasurer and Minister for Local Government to advocate for a moratorium and public inquiry, highlighting the problems with the ESVF, and I've been mandated by the working group to draft that letter. Seek meetings with metropolitan councils to talk to them of the punitive nature of the ESVF on farms and small business to gain their active support. Seek alliances with small businesses through local structures such as business and tourism associations. Launch an online petition that Victorian ratepayers can sign. Conduct a public information education campaign through mainstream and social medias. And conduct research on relevant issues such as there's a number of legal questions around this, and there are questions around how emergency services are funded in other states. This alliance between the UFU, local government and farmers is one part of a multi-pronged campaign around problems with the ESVF. Other structures such as Rural Councils Victoria, Municipal Association of Victoria are also advocating on the issue. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's my report.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for all that work. And thank you for presenting such an eloquent and comprehensive report to us this evening. Then we'll get through reports. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor, and also I'd like to reiterate, Councillor, thank you very much for your work on that important point to us, and you're doing a great job, so thank you. So I'm on the committee with the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust. We met last week and things are ticking along well there. I'd like to just shout out to a Castlemaine local guy named Boris Bendra, who actually won the voice, not won the voice, got through to the voice finals, which is pretty fantastic. It was local young man, so just happened last night, I think. So good on him, and hopefully he can keep up the good work. And I went to the memorial of a friend of mine who started Workspace years ago. Peter Cox passed away, and him and Leon Scott both started Workspace, which I've been on the board of for 21 years now. Peter was the ex-mayor of Bendigo. Politically, him and I were poles apart, but we're still able to discuss things and end things in good fashion. So I just wanted to acknowledge him, that he's passing. And that's it. Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Maddock, do you have a delegate's report?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
It's been a very busy month for me. Last night at the Buddha Historical Homestead annual general meeting, which is great to get a report on all the good work that they're doing there. It seems to be a very successful year. A very fun weekend at the Hot Moves, No Pressure at Boomtown, which is incredibly entertaining. Me and a number of colleagues had a tour of the Colin Water Waste Treatment Centre, which is very interesting to see how that works, and I've got all the confidence we're in very good hands with that organisation. And a listing post on Saturday at the Wesley Hill Market, which was great to hear, always great to hear from not just the residents of Wesley Hill, who are coming from all over. The Chicken Pool and CFA Bonfire was an awesome event. I was there with the family. The kids absolutely loved it. And best food, well, that's controversial to say, isn't it? Some of the best food at a fundraising thing I think I've ever been to. It was a really good and successful night, and I hope they've raised the money they need to keep their wonderful pool going. Another really awesome event was taking root in Barkers Creek, which was a immersive sound installation event at the Fee Broadway, run by the Barkers Creek Land Care and Wildlife Group, documenting the, I think it's 30-year history of the Barkers Creek Land Care and Wildlife Group, which is just a fantastic highly functional little community organisation out near where I live, so particularly pertinent. And also hearing about their ambitions for quite an ambitious revegetation of some land out in Barkers Creek. I went to the Gaza Mutual Aid Market on Sunday, which was another successful fundraising event, raising much needed funds for people really struggling through the atrocities of Gaza, and they report raising around $4,000. So I think that speaks to the care and dedication that many in our community feel to that cause. And similarly for the weekly marches that have been happening on Tuesdays here. And then lastly, I'd just like to recognise significant community concern about the closure of Castlemaine Fitness. And there's been a lot of chat online this week, which I've been following, where a lot of people have really highlighted just the effect that's had on them. And I see it, as a probably more than weekly user of that facility over many years. It's been a hit for me. I'm doing less exercise. My kids are getting in the water less. We were there every week last winter, at least once a week. But just noting from the community that there's less swimming lessons happening year round. We have really good swimming lessons programs in the 3 months our pools are open, but outside of that, except for one facility in town, there's no other swimming lessons happening. Dalkai Health were using it for hydrotherapy programs. These people are now don't know how they're going to get the hydrotherapy. So as well as the sort of general recreational well-being and benefits of these facilities, there's very direct medical implications. I really see it as we have less services in the Shire, less accessible services now that they're gone. I know we're doing good work making services accessible. We've got the bus going down to the Bull and Kangaroo Flat, which is a wonderful initiative, but the distance and time is still a big barrier. So just recognising that community concern. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Matt. That's an action-packed month for you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Walker.
So could I just thank Councillor Maddock for coming to the Pool bushfire as one of the chefs there. Over 250 people attended, $5,000 was raised.
And your food is some of the best. Councillor Haswell, the other delegates report for us tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I think it's been a very busy month all round, which has been fantastic. In terms of activities in my ward, in Tarragale ward, the Goldfields Gothic Festival, of course, which is a sight to behold, and it does give me an excuse to dress up and put on absurd makeup and wear lots of black. You don't get too many opportunities like that, so you may as well get into it, I reckon. In all seriousness, thank you to, once again, the Malden Machinery Museum and volunteers, the way that the community comes together around that event. It's a lot of fun, and I think once again it sort of demonstrates how Malden is often a platform for a range of different and sometimes quite unique communities. It can be converted into a Gothic spectacle. It can also be a very folky place. There are many things that Malden can become, and I really love the way that community embraces it. People dress up, people just approach it with a great sense of fun. And also, of course, those events are a critical part of the Malden visitor economy, which is so important for the town. I also went to a farewell event last night, organised by Malden Inc. And that was for the wonderful Barb and Graham, who ran the newsagents in Main Street for around about 25 years. And you can imagine what happens in a news, or the stories that are told and exchanged and the things that are not told in a newsagent. We heard a few of them last night, and it was an eye-opener. So congratulations to Barb and Graham on their service, the way that they've just so quietly but definitely were a backbone of the community, much loved, missed, but also people are very delighted to see them heading off to a fruitful retirement. What else did, oh yes, Malden Heritage Network, which is a group that's going really strongly. It's great to see that network bringing together the different heritage interests in the Malden area. Again, characterised by enormous expertise, knowledge, commitment. It's a very strong group, and with a very clear sense of the importance of built heritage and other forms of heritage in Malden. It's an honour to meet with them and to identify some of the opportunities to further protect and promote heritage in Malden. I also met with the Malden Traffic Safety Group, who are a newer group and a small group, but also passionate and working really hard on behalf of the community to identify some of the significant traffic safety issues. So certainly around traffic safety, but also around traffic amenity, the impact of noise with a high, for a small town, a really high proportion of heavy vehicles that interrupt and divide the town. So when you've got a main high street connecting between aged care or retirement village environments, the main shopping centre, and you've got a flow of B doubles coming down the hill, not necessarily always following the speed restrictions by a long way. We've got some very significant issues there, which we're working together on, and I'm pleased that council's able to contribute. Is making some contributions, and I think we need to do a lot more there as well. Likewise, Barringup community has very similar concerns, and in the face of the further developments that are proposed for the area in terms of the Blue Hills Quarry and other industrial type developments that have potential to once again exacerbate what is already I think an unacceptable level of heavy traffic through those areas. That's probably mostly. I just wanted to also thank Councillor Walker, as others have, for the great work that he's doing in the ESBF space. I also attended the launch of a documentary film, Breaking Point, which has been produced by the UFU. I went into Melbourne and saw that a couple of weeks ago. It's quite a powerful communication around the current conditions and the state of equipment and the impacts that has for safety of firefighters and community. So it was good to go along to that as well. It's a fire safety emergency services, and how they are funded is a very significant interest, I think, to us in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hestwell. I have a few points just to pick up on. Hot moves, no pressure. It certainly was way of the night, and well, I think the appellation of no pressure. I was up at Etty Street, and it's delightful to note that Etty Street is really starting to, well, it's been humming for a long time, but it's really exciting to see so many community groups making good use of that space, and no fewer than 3 troops were practicing their hot moves, some pressure. In fact, quite a lot of pressure the day I was there, and the day before performances. Hot moves, lots of pressure at that particular moment. But yeah, just a shout out to all the community organisations on the Etty Street, dance studio, theatre company, and a range of others. It's really exciting to see so much creative work happening there, not just with the hot rods, of course, but with a range of community organisations. Something theatre company have a show about to hit the tiles. locally written play. And the Gothic Festival was great fun. I was lucky enough to get out there, Councillor Haswell, on the 2nd, I think it was. And really interesting the way Malden interprets goth in steampunk, 19th century, gold rush. It's really, really creative and again speaks volumes to the creative spirit of this remarkable shire. I had the great pleasure and honour of accompanying Her Excellency the Governor, Margaret Gardner, in the Shire on the 16th of July. Mayor Anir hosted the Governor in a couple of events, and I was fortunate to accompany Her Excellency to the Victorian Goldfields Railway and to Buda, and as always, the Goldfield Railway. It was a fantastic event. Those trains are beautiful. They'd pulled a few of the old overland cars out of the shed to give us a joyride, if I can be so bold, from the sheds down to Platform Creek. A very slow joyride. Beautiful cargo, and the Governor was good enough to give us a little dissertation on the Governor's cars that are in the Railway Museum over in Seymour, several Governor's cars. It was really interesting to accompany the Governor, and I want to acknowledge publicly the hard work of the Governor and of her official secretary and aides. Remarkable team, and very interesting to get a bit of an insight into the daily occupation of that office and the enormously wide purview that the Governor's office has. On the 7th of August, there was a notable homelessness vigil on the market steps. Was reported on by local media, and it was a well-attended event. Speakers spoke about the immediate day-to-day pressing needs of homeless people within the Shire, but also spoke expansively on some of the broader kind of nationwide themes of housing stress and homelessness. It was a really useful occasion to check in and converse with other volunteers active in that space, as well as people from Delhi Help. It was I think it was a fruitful vigil. I also want to draw attention to the master's students. So James Whitten is a geographer, lives here in the Shire, and he has a group of master's students at Monash University who have been working on a project called Moving the Main. So these are focused groups of 3 master's students per group, and each of these groups is tasked with a different town planning conundrum to solve. So a couple of the groups looked at transport issues. One of them looking at transport issues from Elmore down to Kyneton and proposing a local sort of kind of a local tramway kind of idea or using the existing V-line tracks. Another group was looking at housing stress. Another group was looking at Mackenzie's Hill and Wesley Hill and ways to try and develop a stronger sense of a community centre, a physical community centre. And I was just going to say, I was so impressed with the work of these guys. A long time since I was a master's student at Monash, but gee, the tech and the resources have come a very long way. You should see the quality of the printouts they have there. James is going to present that material to us for our consideration. It's really interesting and like I say, really impressive to see groups of postgrad students who are really enthused by a topic, really getting their teeth stuck in. And for us, it's a whole kind of free consultation that we've just had provided to the Shire. Really interesting work, and I congratulate those students and James for their work. Of course, councillors might remember, I think Councillor Maddock came along to, well, of course, Councillor Maddock was there on the 9th. Wesley Hall, but you were also at the Raybrow Field Route. So this is a project of some longevity. I was fortunate to visit with fellow councillors and the mayor the reclamation plant. And yeah, Councillor Maddock, what an amazing facility that is. The first time I'd been up on the walls of those tanks. Are they tanks? I guess they're tanks. And peered inside. Just one little, like, so much interesting, so much interesting. Just nerded out as a geographer. That was so interesting. That reclamation plant has the biota to break down the solids, equivalent to 65 kilometers of continuously running streams. In other words, if you were to release that sewage into a river network, it would take 65 kilometers of permanently running stream to treat, to break down that sewage as what you have in that plant. I found that amazing. I was really interested to hear about the plans for expansion. And I think the team out there were happy that we were so enthusiastic. It's a really great day. Really enjoyed that. And we just dodged the rain as well, which was fortunate. And finally, just to acknowledge and to thank Legislative Councillor Bev MacArthur for coming to the Shire, joining us, I should say, for a meeting this morning to talk broad issues around local government. Mr. MacArthur is the upper house representative for Western Victoria and is the Shadow Minister for Local Government. That's all from me. Maybe the CEO, do you have anything to add here?
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillors have, as always, the list of meetings that the Mayor and myself have attended, and happy to answer any questions if you wish. Thank you for mentioning the visit from the Governor, Deputy Mayor, and that's something that every councillor plus all of the executive had the opportunity to be a part of and to speak with her. So a fantastic couple of days. But I did want to mention that just to say special thanks to Leanne Brown, our Manager of Governance and Risk, and also Merrin Tinkler, our Manager of Economy and Culture, who they particularly, but also their teams put an enormous amount of work into making sure that that all went really well as it did. So a big thanks to both of them. I wanted to also just mention two others. The Rural Council of Victoria two-day annual forum, which Councillors Walker and Maddock, as well as Mayor Anir, attended with myself. That was up in Yarrawonga. That was 33 of the member councils of Rural Council of Victoria were represented there through mayors, councillors and CEOs. So a very strong turnout for Rural Councils of Victoria, as there always is. A great list of things to talk about. I know I'm a little bit one-sided or one-eyed in that view as a board member of the RCV, but a great list of conversations starters that were had related to childcare, maternal child health, nurse services, housing, financial sustainability, and then a number of matters that are of particular significance from a lobbying perspective into state government particularly were discussed at that. And that is a big part of the job of Rural Council of Victoria, as we talked about tonight, the motion that you supported to go to the MAV. That's very much also the work of Rural Councils Victoria, pushing that agenda of rural is not the same as regional, is not the same as metropolitan. And thank you also for supporting that proposal and for initiating, in fact, Councillor Maddock. The other one that I wanted to mention was it was the first meeting of Destination Central Victoria, which is the kind of the working title for the new regional tourism board that we have. We've long been a member, along with Goldfields and Loddonshire, of the Bendigo Regional Tourism Board, and that's delivered a lot of great things for us. We're pretty excited about the opportunity that's going to come from being aligned with Hepburn, Macedon Ranges, Central Goldfields, as perhaps a little more aligned than what we've been in that broader group, being a part of that with the City of Greater Bendigo. So we have very strong product alignment. We're pretty excited about the possibilities for it. That was the first meeting of the interim board, which will probably go through until about, optimistically we said January, realistically we said June, to get things in place to make sure that new regional tourism board is operating the way that we all wanted to, from the individual interests of each council as well as the collective interest of the region. So yeah, a great start there, and certainly I think we've tapped into an impressive operating a regional tourism board already, and they appreciate how much we want to be made as strong a part of that as what they have been making for Hepburn and Massive Ranges for quite a few years. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, CEO. Now that sounds really promising and exciting. All right, so we'll move on to, we have notices of motion, we have none. Urgent special business, we have none. Confidential items. This report's are confidential in accordance with 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020, which permits the meeting to be closed to consider confidential information. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Cordy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move that council closes the ordinary meeting of council 19th of August 2025 in accordance with section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 in order to consider confidential information as contained as defined in the Local Government Act under section 3 definitions confidential information. Part A, council business information, including being information that will prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cordy. Do we have a second? Councillor Driscoll. Thank you. All those in favour and against? That's carried. And so with that, I declare the meeting, this part of the meeting closed at 8:53. Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon, 7:53, sorry.